If you want to learn how to write solos like you just heard in the intro, stick around and I'll show you how. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know I'm not the most shreddy guitar player, but today I want to show that there's a lot more to a good solo than just how many notes you can play. But if that's the video you're looking for, then this video is probably not going to be for you. But first, very quickly, if you want me to listen to your solo or your track or your song, click the first link in the description. I give detailed feedback on your tracks, 100% free. So I think there's two sides to writing a good solo. There's the practical, how do I figure out what notes to play? And then there's the other side of what story am I trying to tell with the solo? I'm going to cover both, but I want to try and convince you why the latter is more important. But first, I'll help you figure out what notes to play. So in the solo you heard in the intro, I actually wrote that just by singing notes. I was going for a walk and I was just singing random stuff and the whole solo just kind of came to me. So by the time I came back from the walk, I just played the thing into my door and I had a solo. And the reason that works so well is because when you're singing it, you're writing something that's naturally going to be memorable. Because if you're writing on guitar, you might just end up playing stuff that feels good to play or stuff that's going to be the most shreddy thing in the world, but it's not always going to be the most memorable thing. But if you're just singing to yourself, you can usually come up with something that's really strong and really memorable. Another practical tip I can give you is keep your intervals small. Generally, you want more small jumps than big jumps. Obviously, big jumps are going to make it sound like you're moving into something new, but small jumps make it sound more memorable, again, keeping it singable. So now for what I think is the more important stuff. Every solo needs to tell a good story. You know, a story has intro, build, climax, and an outro, right? Your solo needs to replicate that. In a minute, I'm going to show you how to make the most of all of these sections. I'm going to talk you through how I did it in this solo and how you can do it in your own. But first, think, why are you putting a solo here? You probably want your listener to go on some sort of journey, something away from the song that they've just been hearing. Think about that when you're writing a solo. Try and take them on a journey and then bring them back to the song for when your solo's done. So first, the intro. You need to grab your listener's attention. This doesn't have to be the most exciting thing in the world, but it needs to have something that makes them go, ooh, makes them want to keep listening. In fact, usually it's better that you don't go into the most exciting bit in the intro because it leaves them something to be listening out for. In the solo you heard at the start of this video, for the intro, I used a raised 7th from the harmonic minor scale. And otherwise I kept it simple, but I used that just to build a bit of tension building into the next part. All right, so next is the build. The main thing here is don't lose the momentum you built in the intro. If you've done your intro right, then you've played something that makes the listener want to keep listening. So you've got to keep them there. Build tension. The way I did it in this track is I started incorporating some bigger jumps. But again, keep it singable for the most part. All right, the climax. If you've done your intro and your build right, then this is the bit that the listener's waiting for, so you have to deliver. Now, this actually doesn't have to be the most shreddy section. All it has to do is to be memorable. You know, this is the section of the solo that people are going to be singing in their heads when they're walking down the road or whatever. So the way I did it in this track is I used the rule of threes, which is basically everything's better in a group of three. So I used the motif that repeats a similar sort of rhythm 3 times in a row. I changed the notes a bit, but it feels like it develops. All right, and finally, the outro. The big thing here, don't ruin it. If you've done everything else right, then all this has to do is reintroduce the listener back to the song. You know, you want to bring it home. I'll be honest, in most cases, just land on the root or the fifth. If you're landing on some strange note, then it's probably going to feel a bit disjointed when the track goes back into the rest of the song. I remember maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, I was writing with a friend of mine, and he was writing a piano solo. He was a great pianist, and he finished on the second, and it just made the reintroduction to the track sound really weird and disjointed. So I'd recommend, there are cases where you can use different notes, but in most cases, just use the root of the fifth and you'll be all right. All right, that's all I got for you today. Again, if you want to send me your track, click the first link in the description, and I'll see you later.